folded sheet of paper resting in the hand, a drawing of the roots across a foreign land. We bought it fresh with vibrant ink and solid green, a vivid navigation on a moving scene. It snapped into a square with crisp and even lines, but opening the corners takes a fading toll, a physical erasing of the paper soul. The constant bending rubs the color printing out, removing all the borders of a lingering doubt. The creases turn a pale and devastating white, a fragile separation in the fading light. The intersecting corners soften to a tear, a testament to travel in the open air. But following the fading road secures the way, a reliable direction at the close of day. The paper loses strength to keep the traveler safe, a beautiful devotion in a narrow space, guiding lines upon a fragile open chart. We wore the bitter edges to a fading gray, and engineered a shelter where the lovers stay. You cannot find an ocean on a blank disguise. I trust the wounded paper under weary eyes, guiding lines upon a fragile open chart. We wore the bitter edges to a fading gray, and engineered a shelter where the lovers stay. You cannot find an ocean on a blank disguise. I trust the wounded paper under weary eyes. We used to search the screen for digital advice, a calculated journey with a hidden price. But batteries deplete and leave the vision dark, a miserable ending to a glowing spark. The paper needs no power to display the road, a permanent addition to a heavy load. I trace my index finger on the tearing seam and navigate the weather of a waking dream. Fold the fragile map, find the fading blue, walk the rugged path, give it all to you. The damage is a symptom of a working trust, a brilliant little harbor rising from the dust. I realize that hoping for an untouched page is leaving all the stories on a broken stage. Love requires a folding of the outer skin to integrate the miles and to let them in. We let the past and friction erase the vivid dye, invalidated every journey under the sky. I fold the paper squares into a pocket size, accepting the direction that the map provides, guiding lines upon a fragile open chart. Find a way. We wore the bitter edges to a fading gray, and engineered a shelter where the lovers stay. You cannot find an ocean on a blank disguise. I trust the wounded paper under weary eyes. Fold is torn, the road is clear. We are safe. Fold is torn, the road is clear.
Plastic guide resting on a wooden board. We bought it with a rigid and abiding peak. It's sliding on the canvas takes a subtle toll, a physical erasing of the plastic soul. The friction of the drawing rubs the danger down, a daily repetition on the working ground. It loses all the aesthetic of a dangerous tool, becoming just a partner for a drawing fool. It glides across the surface with a gentle slide. The plastic sheds its danger to protect the page, a flawless integration on a wooden stage. Rounded angles sliding on the open sheet, a loyal little partner making lines complete. We wore the bitter edges to a soothing curve, and engineered an angle ready just to serve. You cannot drop the future with the tearing slice. I use the faded plastic looking very nice. fight the planning with a heavy hand, a miserable struggle in a working land. But pushing with an ego tears the canvas wide, a permanent disaster on the inner side. The rounded plastic offers up a steady pace, a flawless navigation in a crowded space. I run the yellow pencil on the fading edge and feel the steady anchor on the narrow ledge. Push the plastic tool, draw the steady line, feel the corner yield, keep the weather fine. The wearing is a blessing in a rugged form, a brilliant little shelter from a passing storm. I realize that hoping for a piercing spike is missing all the logic of the things we like. Love requires a blunting of the outer thread to navigate the drawing and to pay the debt. We let the passing friction turn the danger out and washed away the center of a lingering doubt. I dropped the plastic triangle on the dusty desk, accepting the perfection of a simple test. Rounded angles sliding on the open sheet. Draw the line, loyal little partner, making lines complete. Keep it smooth. We wore the bitter edges to a soothing curve, and engineered an angle ready just to serve. You cannot draft a future with the tear slice. I trust the faded plastic looking very nice. The point is dull, the line is true. We are fine.
A fragile glass resting on a wooden base, a calculated measure in a quiet space. We flipped it on the table to record a span, a geometric logic for a working plan. The golden powder drifted through the narrow choke, but dropping on the counter leaves a fatal crack. A terrifying damage never coming back. The glass explodes in pieces on the marble tile, a miserable blend into a walking mile. The chamber bursts wide open in a sudden snap, a devastating error in a broken trap. The golden powder scatters in a heavy wave, a physical disaster we can never save. It stains the wooden surface in a dusty pool, a permanent reminder of a waiting fool. I try to scoop the particles with empty hands, but gravity commands the scattering of sands. The structure loses logic in the present, dies a devastating failure under weary eyes. Spilled time bleeding on the kitchen floor, a tragic limitation asking nothing more. I try to read the minutes but the glass is dead, a physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot count a future when the bulb is torn. I stare at the disaster, feeling tired and worn. Spilled time bleeding on the kitchen floor, a tragic limitation asking nothing more. I try to read the minutes but the glass is dead, a physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot count a future when the bulb is torn. I stare at the disaster, feeling tired and worn. We acted like the measurement was always true, a guaranteed progression meant for me and you. But breaking up the vessel lets the meaning out, a miserable inundation of a growing doubt. The sand is just a messy and a dirty pile, a tragic cancellation of a fading smile. I sweep the broken fragments in the plastic dust, a devastated ending to a failing trust. Watch the powder fall, hit a vessel, crack, lose the steady flow, never coming back. The accident destroyed the only bridge we made, a microscopic ending to a long charade. I realized that forcing an unnatural gauge is dropping all the actors on a broken stage. Love requires a vessel that is safe and whole to regulate the timing of a moving soul. We shocked the fragile circle in a careless fall and ruined all the progress standing by the wall. I dropped the sweeping handle in the corner bin, accepting the disaster of the state I am in. Spilled time bleeding on the kitchen floor, watch it go. Limitation asking nothing more. Lose the count, read the minutes but the glass is dead, a physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot count a future when the bulb is torn. I leave the scatter powder, feeling tired and worn. The glass is broke, the sand is out, I am done.
disc pressing on a window pane. I pushed it in the center with the heavy force. It held a little plastic in the metal planks. But breaking in the window takes a solar tax, a physical reduction of the stick and wax. The ultraviolet hardens up the outer rim. A miserable ending in the shadows dim. The rubber loses tension and the shadows dim. The rubber loses tension and the shadows dim. I push against the center to secure the seal. A desperate maneuver of the way I feel. But chemistry refuses an elastic bend. A paralyzed defender of a broken friend. It falls upon the sill with a plastic clack. A physical reminder it is turning back. The seal is compromised and the vacuum drops. A miserable engine where the holding stops. Falling grip, sliding down the frozen glass. A tragic little ending as the shadows pass. I try to push the rubber but the edge is dead. A physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot hold a boundary with a rigid crust. I stare at the disaster of a broken trust. Falling grip, sliding down the frozen glass. A tragic little ending as the shadows pass. I try to push the rubber but the edge is dead. A physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot hold a boundary with a rigid crust. I stare at the disaster of a broken trust. We acted like the tension was a given right, ignoring all the weather and the fading light. But heat is an infection drying every gear, a devastating marker of a broken year. The huck is lying useless on the wooden frame, a miserable actor in a losing game. I walk the dirty circle on the clouded pane, but nothing brings a suction to the glass again. Push the rigid disc, hear the plastic scrape. Fail to catch the air, fail to find escape. The solar ray is poison to a steady hold. A miserable story getting dark and old. I realize a false in a degraded cup. It's throwing up a magic, giving structure up. Love requires a margin for the air to lock, to generate a vacuum on the ticking clock. We left the vital rubber in a burning rate and validated all the pain we feel today. I dropped a ruined object in the plastic bin, accepting the disaster of the state I am in. Falling grip, sliding down the frozen glass. Watch it drop, a tragic little ending as the shadows pass. Loser, try to push the rubber but the edge is dead. A physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot hold a boundary with a rigid crust. I leave the frozen rubber and the broken trust. The cup is dry. The glass is cold. I am done.
A plastic tray. A plastic tray sitting by the brewing vent. A dark and rigid platform for the time we spent. We bought it fought and glossy in a pristine black. A modern little component on daily track. It caught the overflow in a hidden base. A functional addition to a quiet place. But holding up a temperature takes a heavy toll. A physical remodeling of the plastic soul. The burning liquid transfers intense degree. A miserable boundary for you and me. The flat material softens in the morning heat. A chemical surrender on a busy street. It takes the round dimension of the ceramic mug. A dedicated crater on a gentle tug. The tray becomes an indentation of a perfect fit. A reliable mechanic that will never quit. It locks the heavy vessel in a steady hold. providing the devotion, getting brave and old. The plastic loses vanity to take the burn. A beautiful devotion we are glad to learn. Melted impressions resting in the morning light, a steady little anchor making matters right. We wore the bitter edges to a custom slide, an engineer to shelter where the feelings hide. You cannot hold a vessel on a rigid crest. I trust the sunken plastic for a sweet request. Melted impressions resting in the morning light, a steady little anchor making matters right. We wore the bitter edges to a custom slide, an engineer to shelter where the feelings hide. You cannot hold a vessel on a rigid crest. I trust the sunken plastic for a sweet request. We used to judge the beauty by an untouched gleam, a superficial actor in a waking dream. But glossy little items drop and slip away, defeating all the logic of a working state. The dented crater offers an exact degree, a steady calibration meant for you and me. I place the heavy coffee on the faded ring and navigate the magic of a waking thing. Push the ceramic down, feel the plastic yield, hold the bittersweet, walk the open field. The damage is a blessing in a rugged form, a brilliant little shelter from a passing storm. I realize that hoping for a rigid start is missing all the yielding of a working heart. Love requires a softening the outer shell to navigate the holding and to do it well. We let the passing fever shape the inner core and validated everything we bargained for. I lift a heavy liquid in the fading night, accepting the perfection of a steady side. Melted impressions resting in the morning, drop it in, steady little anchor making matters. Keep it safe. You wore the bitter edges to a custom slide, an engineer to shelter where the feelings hide. You cannot hold a vessel on a rigid crest. I trust the sunken plastic for a sweet request. The tray is soft, the cup is right. We are fine.
Pushing on the throttle takes a rubbing feel, a physical progression meant for you and me. The friction of the driving wears the edges down, a daily repetition dragging through the town. The sharp design surrenders to a velvet slide, erasing all the tension on the inner side. The pedal turns to polish in a glowing black, a custom navigation on a moving track. It tastes of human pressure with a flawless grace, providing a transition in a narrow space. The rubber gives us vanity to drive the wheel, a steady illustration of the way we feel. Polished tread sinking in the lower board, a loyal little partner we can well afford. We wore the bitter angles to a soothing flat, an engineered a rhythm we are marveling at. You cannot drive a journey with the biting grind. I trust the faded rubber I've left behind. Bitter stands, a terrifying wobble in a rolling dance. But time allows the rubber to dictate the speed. The naked flat vibration for the daily need. The naked flat an absolute embrace. A beautiful devotion in a narrow space. I pass my weary shoe upon the darkened track and navigate the highway, never looking back. Push the rubber down, feel the engine roar. Glide the moving car, ask for nothing more. The fading is an asset in a rugged form. I bring a little shelter from a passing storm. I realize that hoping for a pristine grip is throwing out the magic of a steady trip. Love required a smoothing of the outer shell to navigate the journey and to do it well. We let the passing leather wear the texture out and washed away the center of a lingering doubt. I push the heavy throttle in the fading light, accepting the perfection of a steady ride. Polished tread, sinking in the lower port. A loyal little partner we can well afford. We wore the bitter angles to a soothing flat and engineered a rhythm we are marveling at. You cannot drive a journey with the biting grind. I trust the faded rubber I have left behind. The pedal is smooth, the speed is right. We are driving it out.
Yeah. A metal spool sitting on a carbon rod, a calculated engine for the ocean side. We crank the silver handle on the outer case to generate a motion in a quiet space. The silver bearings rolled inside a velvet track. But sitting in the salt water takes a brutal toll. A chemical destruction of the iron soul. The sand and the humidity invade the crack. A devastating ending on a working track. The tiny spheres oxidize into a rigid rust. I try to pull the handle but the iron binds. A physical reflection of divided minds. The real delivers nothing but a broken grind. The terrifying shadow we have left behind. The nylon string will tangle in the rising wind. The metal fuse is solid and the rotation dies. I try to reel the tether, but the iron screams. You cannot draw a future when the gear is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. Jam bearings freezing on the metal shell. A tragic illustration of an empty hell. I try to pull the burden, but the motor winds up. You cannot lift the future when the teeth are dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. We acted like the tension was a given right, ignoring all the weather in the fading light. But rust is an infection stopping every gear. A devastating marker of a broken year. The line is hanging useless on the wooden pier. A physical reminder of the growing fear. I spin the broken handle in a futile trace. A permanent division in an empty space. Push the heavy crank, hear the metal scrape. Watch the nylon knot fail to find escape. The friction is a poison to a moving part. I realize that forcing an infected joint is ruining the logic of the breaking point. Love requires a maintenance of the inner pin to keep the motion fluid and let the healing in. We left the iron soaking in a bitter storm and ruin all the function of the working form. I drop my weary hands and step away from it, accepting the disaster, I must admit. Jam bearings freezing on the metal shell. Let it free. Tragic illustration of an empty hell. Walk away. Try to pull the burden, but the motor winds up. You cannot lift the future tears we shed. The gear is dead. The line is stuck. I am done.
Plastic blade, waiting in the winter car. A dedicated weapon for a fallen star. We pushed it on the window in the freezing cold. A rigid piece of logic getting brave and old. To shave the heavy frost. The flawless operation of a working trust. But pushing heavy ice demands a metal spine. A physical requirement crossing out the line. We jam the plastic handle with the selfish rage. A violent interaction on a frozen stage. The plastic hits a boundary it cannot exceed. The tragic limitation of a basic need. The edge begins to shatter in a sudden crack. A devastating ending on a working track. The splinters fly apart and leave a jagged bite. A miserable error in the fading light. I drag the broken weapon on the freezing glass, but nothing clears the window as the minutes pass. The blade is disconnected and the ice remains. I try to clear the vision, but the plastic tears a miserable answer to the open prayers. You cannot break or freeze when the tool is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. Splintered edge scraping on the frozen shield. The tragic cancellation in an open field. I try to clear the vision, but the plastic tears a miserable answer to the open praise. You cannot break or freeze when the tool is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. We acted like the tension was an easy slide, ignoring all the weather that we tried to hide. But freezing up a barrier invites a hit. A consequence of trauma we must admit. The broken lives multiply the fading sun. The tragic illustration that the day is done. I trace my freezing finger on the jagged tear and feel a sudden cut inside the open air. Push the broken blade, hit the plastic snap. Watch the window freeze, fall into the trap. The forcing is a poison to a steady frame. A devastating ending in a losing game. I realize that forcing in a natural cut is keeping all the avenues forever shut. Love requires a margin for the ice to melt, to navigate the winter and the pain we felt. We broke the vital plastic in a reckless test and ruined all the logic of a sweet request. I dropped the ruined scraper in the parking lot, accepting all the freezing of the truth we got. Splintered edge scraping on the frozen shield. Watch us snap a tragic cancellation in an open field. Lose the sight, I try to clear the vision, but the plastic tears a miserable answer to the open breath. You cannot break or freeze when the tool is dead. Leave the broken plastic and the tears we shed. The blade is dead. The ice is hard. I am done.
A heavy cast of iron sitting by the wall. A dedicated guardian answer in the call. We bought it painted with a shiny layer. We bought it painted with a shiny layer. Yeah. But stopping swinging timber takes a crushing toll. A physical erasing of the iron soul. The door collides against the metal with a slam. The painted surface shatters on the leading nose. A visual recording that the iron shows. The silver core reveals a jagged little tear. A testament of garden in the open air, but holding back the barrier lest the weather breeze, erasing all the tension in the summer trees. The metal takes the beating to provide a space, a flawless operation in a quiet place. The chipped doorstop, waiting on the entrance floor, a loyal little partner keeping up the door. We wore the bit of paint into a silver scar and engineered a shelter, looking at a star. You cannot hold a portal with a fragile glass. I trust the heavy iron as the seasons pass. The chipped doorstop, waiting on the entrance floor, a loyal little partner keeping up the door. We wore the bit of paint into a silver scar and engineered a shelter, looking at a star. You cannot hold a portal with a fragile glass. I trust the heavy iron as the seasons pass. Force the handles in an angry fight, a miserable ending closing out the light. But open entryways invite a healing wind, a gentle calibration we have always pinned. The scarred defender never shifts a single inch, providing a devotion working in a pinch. I rub my open fingers on the dented crown, accepting all the safety in a busy town. Push the timber wide, feel the iron block, catch the summer air, stop the ticking clock. The damage is a blessing in the rugged form. I realize that hoping for an untouched gleam is shutting all the windows on a waking dream. Love requires a taking of the heavy strike to generate the freedom we are much alike. We let the swinging portal carve the iron deep, validated all the promises we keep. Ooh, I slide the heavy anchor in the fading light, accepting the devotion of a steady side. The chipped doorstop, waiting on the entrance floor, hold it firm, your little partner keeping up the door. Keep it wide, get a paint into a silver scar, an engineered a shelter, looking at a star. You cannot hold a portal with a fragile glass. I trust the heavy iron as the seasons pass. The paint is chipped, the door is wide, we are fine.
Upon a camera face, a visual director taste. We bought it with a rubber biting grip, a geometric pattern on a moving ship. Gave a stiff resistance to the turning hand, a rigid calculation in a waking land. But dialing up the focus takes a rubbing feet, a physical progression meant for you and me. The friction of the fingers wears the ridges down, a daylight vision through the town. The sharp design surrenders to a velvet slide, a miserable vanity with nowhere left to hide. The ring becomes a polish and a glowing black, a custom navigation on a moving track. It turns a heavy optics with a gentle grace, providing a transition in a narrow space. The rubber gives us vanity to find the view, a steady calibration meant for me and you. A focus ring turning in the morning light, a loyal little partner getting vision right. We ground a bit of plastic to a soothing slide, and engineered a picture where the feeling's high. And cannot find the clarity with fighting gear. I turn the faded rubber and the sight is clear. The smooth focus ring turning in the morning light, a loyal little partner getting vision right. We ground a bit of plastic to a soothing slide, and engineered a picture where the feeling's high. You cannot find the clarity with fighting gear. I turn the faded rubber and the force the image in a rigid frame. A terrifying wobble in a scene game. But time allows the cylinder to take the spin. A gentle calibration where the dream is begin. Naked flat provides an absolute embrace. A beautiful devotion in a crowded space. I rest my weary fingers on the darkened track and navigate the visual, never looking back. Turn the rubber ring, watch the blurry rays, catch the vivid light, find the steady pace. The fading is an asset in her, a brilliant little shelter from a passing storm. I realize that hoping for a pristine grip is throwing out the magic of a way trip. I realize that hoping for a pristine grip is throwing out the magic of a skeleton trip. Love requires a smoothing of the outer shell to navigate the picture and to do it well. We let the passing friction wear the texture out and wash away the center of a lingering doubt. I turn a heavy cylinder in the fading light, accepting the perfection of a starry night. Smooth focus ring turning in the morning light, spinning while you let a partner get in vision right. Make it shine, the plastic to a soothing slide, paginate a picture where the feelings hide. Can I find the clarity with fighting gear? I trust the faded rubber and the sight is clear.
Shade sitting on a folding arm, a dedicated beacon for a working calm. We bent the silver elbow to direct the glow, a calculating angle that the readers know. It washed the entire bedroom in a yellow hue, a flawless operation meant for me and you. But lifting up the heavy head takes a holding joint, a physical connection at the breaking point. We turn the little iron knob to keep it tight, a desperate maneuver in the fading night. The threads inside the cylinder surrender grip, a devastating error on a sinking ship. The iron loses friction and the angle falls, a miserable echo in the empty halls. The lamp descends completely to a downward stare, a paralyzed mechanic in the open air. The structure loses balance and the vision drops, the drooping lamp staring at the wooden desk. I try to lift the metal, but the elbow binds, a physical reflection on the broken knee. I stare at the distortion covering the sea. The drooping lamp staring at the wooden desk, a tragic limitation of a simple task. I try to lift the metal, but the elbow binds, a physical reflection on the broken knee. I stare at the distortion covering the sea. We acted like the tension wasn't easy, right? A constant domination of the waking light, but stripping out the anchor leaves a fatal gap, a devastating error in a closing trap. The beam is concentrated in a tiny spot, a tragic cancellation of the truth we got. I try to push the cylinder into a straight, but iron holds a memory of a bitter fate. Push the silver arm, watch the angle slow, fail to cast a light, lose the final hold. The framework is a casualty of too much strain, a miserable leaning washing down the drain. I realize that forcing an uneven stand is throwing all the vision in the empty sand. Love requires a balance that is firm and tall, to hold a heavy focus and survive a fall. You strip the vital pillar in a selfish fit and force the conversation to a sudden quit. I click the power button on the plastic base, accepting all the shadows in a lonely space. The drooping lamp, staring at the wooden desk, watch it fall. Tragic limitation of a simple task. Lose the pure, lift the metal, but the elbow binds a physical reflection on a broken knee. I leave the ruined metal and the tears we shed. The joint is loose, the light is down, I am done.
A silver knot resting on a metal pipe, a functional director of a water stripe. We pulled the little lever for a heavy rain, a calculated washing of a passing pain. The valve directed pressure to the upper head, a flawless operation of the words we said. But running daily water leaves a hidden crust, a microscopic gathering of failing trust. The calcium deposits in the narrow gap, a miserable error in the frozen trap. The metal oxidizes in the rigid white, a silent execution in the fading night. I pulled a little lever to divert the stream, expecting the conclusion of a waking dream. But iron grinds on iron and it halts halfway, a paralyzed offender at the close of day. The water spills from bottom and the top of light, a devastating failure of a broken strike. The pressure is divided and the volume drops. The stuck diverter, freezing in the middle zone, a tragic limitation. I am left to own. I try to lift the handle, but the iron binds. You cannot force a current when the path is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. Stuck diverter, freezing in the middle zone, a tragic limitation. I am left to own. I try to lift the handle, but the iron binds. You cannot force a current when the path is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. We acted like the tension was a given right, ignoring all the limits in the fading light. But pausing in the middle ruins all the flow, a devastating shadow that the lovers know. The shower is a trickle and a useless mess, a physical translation of a deep distress. The water floods the bathtub in a weak array, a miserable ending to a starting day. Pull the silver pin, hear the metal scrape, fail to shift the stream, fail to find escape. The mineral is poison to a steady frame. I realize that forcing an infected joint is ruining the logic of the breaking point. That requires a channel that is clear and straight, to calculate the pressure and escape the fate. We let the silent calcium build a rigid wall, invalidated every single massive fall. I turned the water faucet to a heavy close, accepting the disaster that the metal shows. Stuck diverter, watch it treason in the middle zone. Lose the tragic limitation. I am left to own. I try to lift the handle, but the iron binds. You cannot force a current when the path is dead. I leave the frozen metal and the tears we shed. The valve is stuck. The pressure drops, I am done.
A plastic shield. Yeah. A plastic shield resting in a wooden case, a tiny little engine in a music space. We bought it with a geometric point and tip, the functional addition for a running ship. It struck the copper wire with a sharp attack, the terrifying rhythm never looking back. But playing all the chords takes a rubbing toll, a physical erasing of the plastic soul. The friction of the metal wears the edges down, the daily repetition dragging through the town. The sharp design surrenders to a velvet slide, erasing all the tension on the inner side. The pick becomes a polished and a rounded dome, a custom navigation in a working home. It hits the heavy string with the gentle grace, providing a transition in a narrow space. The plastic gives its vanity to form a curve, a reliable companion ready just to serve. The worn pick striking on the copper string, a loyal little partner making music ring. We ground the bitter edges to a soothing round, and engineered a harmony we finally found. You cannot play a rhythm with a slicing blade. I hold the faded plastic in a quiet shade. The worn pick striking on the copper string, a loyal little partner making music ring. We ground the bitter edges to a soothing round, and engineered a harmony we finally found. You cannot play a rhythm with a slicing blade. I hold the faded plastic in a quiet shade. Used to fight the audio with the heavy hand, a miserable struggle in a working land. But losing all the sharpness leaves a warm tone, a comforting reminder I am not alone. The plastic slips across the metal without fear, a physical devotion in a passing year. I pinch the tiny triangle and feel the groove, accepting all the magic of the way we move. Hold the plastic tight, strike the heavy wire, feel the audio roll, feed the rising fire. The damage is a blessing to the acoustic board, a permanent devotion of a sweet reward. I realize that hoping for an untouched spine is missing all the logic of your heart and mind. Love requires a rubbing of the outer shell to navigate the rhythm and to do it well. We let the past and friction carve the plastic deep, and validated all the promises we keep. I strike the final chorus in the fading light, accepting the perfection of a steady night. The worn pick striking on the copper string, play it loud, a loyal little partner making music ring. Keep the beat, we ground the bitter edges to a soothing round, and engineered a harmony we finally found. You cannot play a rhythm with a slicing blade. I trust the faded plastic in the quiet shade. The edge is round, the chord is bright, we are fine.
A wooden sphere mounted on an iron crank, a working operation by the kitchen bank. We bought it looking rough with an open grain, a rigid little circle waiting for the train. It took a heavy effort just to make it spin, a complicated ritual waiting to begin. But turning up the iron takes a steady wear, a physical erasing in the open air. The friction of the fingers rubs the ridges down, a daily repetition dragging through the town. The timber turns a polished and a glowing black, a custom navigation on a moving track. It takes the human pressure with a flawless grace, providing a transition in a narrow space. The handle fits exactly in the weary palm, a reliable companion bringing up a calm. The wood gives up its roughness to the steady hand, the smooth handle turned in the morning light, a loyal little partner making matters right. We wore the bitter angles to a velvet slide, and engineered a shelter on the inner side. You cannot brew a future with a biting grind. I hold the faded timber I have left behind. touch phase, a superficial logic in a crowded space. But time allows the timber to dictate the speed, a gentle calibration for the daily need. The naked flag provides an absolute embrace, a beautiful devotion in a narrow space. I push my weary fingers on the darkened wood and navigate the rhythm where we always stood. Push the timber round, feel the iron spin, grind a bitter bean, let the day begin. The fading is an asset in a rugged form, a brilliant little shelter from a passing storm. I realize that hoping for a pristine grip is throwing out the magic of a steady trip. Love requires a smoothing of the outer shell to navigate the turning and to do it well. We let the passing friction wear the texture out and wash away the center of a lingering doubt. I turn a heavy cylinder in the fading light, accepting the perfection of a steady ride. The smooth handle turning in the morning, spin around, a loyal little partner, making matters right. Keep it smooth. We wore the bitter angles to a velvet slide, an engineered a shelter on the inner side. You cannot brew a future with a biting grind. I trust the faded timber I have left behind. But the handle is smooth, the brew is dark, we are fine.
A plastic tab resting on a heavy handle. We pushed it up to generate a wave of heat, a function of the fan and blew the moving air. But running on the maximum, but running on the maximum creates a burning feat, a chemical destruction meant for you and me. The copper contacts overheat inside the core, a miserable ending working at the door. The plastic melts and merges with the metal pin, a terrifying error waiting to begin. I try to push the button to a zero state, expecting the conclusion of a bitter fate. But iron is cemented in a frozen bind, the physical reflection of divided minds. The motor screams an angry and a vicious blow, a paralyzed defender that the lovers know. The switch refuses motion and the engine burns, a devastating lesson that the lover learns. I try to push the plastic, but the circuit binds. You cannot stop a fire when the lock is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed on the burning frame, a tragic illustration of a losing game. I try to push the plastic, but the circuit binds. You cannot stop a fire when the lock is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. The tears we shed. Yeah, we acted like the tension was a given right, ignoring all the warning in the open night. But heat is an infection stopping every gear, a devastating marker of a broken year. The air is blowing heavy with a toxic smell, a physical reminder of an active hell. I try to force the slider, but the plastic screams, a miserable ending to the waking dreams. Push the heavy tab, hear the motor grind, fail to cut the power, leave the hope behind. The melting is a poison to a moving part, a tragic cancellation of a weary heart. I realize that forcing an infected joint is ruining the logic of the breaking point. Love requires an engine that can safely rest, to turn the power off and take a quiet test. We left the iron burning in a selfish storm and ruin all the function of the working form. I pull the heavy wire from the bedroom wall, accepting the disaster of a massive fall. Watch it burn on the burning frame, a tragic illustration of lose the power. Game, I try to push the plastic, but the circuit binds. You cannot stop a fire when the lock is dead. I leave the frozen metal and the tears we shed. The switches stop, the done.
Metal tip resting on a golden base. We use it to deliver all the tender lines, but breaking up the balance takes a sudden shift. A microscopic failure causing logic to drift. The internal regulation takes a fatal snap. I push the silver metal on the open wide, expecting a conclusion in the fading light, but gravity defeats the holding of the ink. A miserable ending to the way I think. The liquid drops are heavy in a solid block, erasing all the beauty of the truth we got. The paper is polluted in a spreading tide, a devastating boundary we cannot hide. The pressure is destroyed and the liquid runs, a miserable cancellation of the rising suns. A leaking nib spilling on the writing sheet. I try to write a future but the color falls. A miserable echo in the empty halls. You cannot draw a picture when the flow is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. The leaking nib spilling on the writing sheet. A tragic little error. I try to write a future but the color falls. A miserable echo in the empty halls. You cannot draw a picture when the flow is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. We acted like the tension was an easy flow, ignoring all the warnings that the lovers know. But losing all the pressure makes the liquid die. If a devastating ending we cannot survive. The paper is a ruin of a jagged stain, a physical reminder of the endless pain. I try to trace a letter on the dry domain, but every single motion is a broken chain. Push the middle point, watch the liquid spill, see the paper stain, lose the quiet thrill. The error is a poison to a steady frame. I realize that forcing an infected tool is throwing out the logic of a working fool. Love requires a balance that is firm and tight to regulate the feeling in the fading night. He snapped the vital mechanism in a rush and forced the conversation to a heavy hush. I dropped the ruined iron in the plastic tray, accepting that the writing is pulled away. The leaking nib spilling on the writing sheet. Watch it spill. Try to write a future but the color falls. Lose the ties. A miserable echo in the empty halls. You cannot draw a picture when the flow is dead. I leave the ruined paper and the tears we shed. My ink is dropped. The page is ruined. I am done.
A porous stone resting on a wooden tray. We bought it from the market with a jagged hide. It's scrubbed against the heel with an angry bite. A physical operation in the fading light. But rubbing on the water takes a heavy toll. A gradual erasing of the rocky soul. The friction of the body wears the crater down. A daily repetition dragging through the town. The sharp design surrenders to a velvet slide, erasing all the vanity we try to hide. It loses all the danger of a rigid block, becoming something tender on a ticking clock. The stone becomes a pebble with a gentle grace, a flawless flawless integration in a quiet space. The rock surrenders vanity to build a base, a reliable mechanic in a working space. We ground the bitter edges to a soothing round and engineered a harbor we have finally found. You cannot heal a margin with the cutting blade. I hold the faded pebble in the quiet shade. Untouched face, a superficial logic in a crowded space, but ragged little edges leave a nasty tear, a miserable consequence in the open air. The faded rock delivers an exact degree. I trace the rounded object in the morning light, accepting the perfection of the fading night. Rub the rocky face, wash the falling dust, feel the smooth design, build the quiet trust. The damage is a teacher making matters fine, a beautiful alignment of your heart and mind. I realize that open for an untouched rock is turning back the logic on a passing clock. Love requires a rubbing of the outer shell to navigate the healing, and to do it well we let the passing water wear the danger out and washed away the center of a lingering doubt. I dropped the rounded mineral inside the bowl, accepting the devotion of a gentle soul. Smooth Pumice resting in the soapy tide, wash it down, oil little partner, letting anger hide. Keep it smooth round the bitter edges to a soothing round, and engineered a harbor we have finally found. You cannot heal a margin with a cutting blade. I trust the faded pebble in the quiet shade. The stone is smooth, the skin is soft, we are fine. A metal rod holding up a fuzzy head. We mounted it securely on the lower pedal. A geometric actor made of shining metal. It hit the plastic circle with a sharp attack, a loud and rapid echoing, never looking back. But pounding on the target takes a heavy toll, a physical erasing of the fuzzy soul. The friction of the striking rubs the fiber down, a daily repetition dragging through the town. The round design surrenders to a velvet flat, a physical translation we are marveling at. It takes the human pressure with the flawless grace, providing a transition in a narrow space. The impact is a deeper and a hollow thud, steady little rhythm in the rushing blood. The fabric sheds its vanity to find the tone, a beautiful vibration we have always known. The warm beater striking on the heavy drum, a loyal little partner for the days to come. We ground the bitter edges to a
hand, a miserable struggle in a working land, but losing all the sharpness leaves a warm tone. I am not alone. The fuzzy pad delivers an exact degree, a steady calibration meant for you and me. I push my weary shoe upon the darkened track and feel the steady echo always coming back. Push the pedal down, hear the heavy beat, feel the fabric yield, make the song complete. The damage is a blessing to the audio wire, a permanent devotion feeding up the fire. I realize that hoping for an untouched hit is throwing out the magic that will never quit. Love requires a rubbing of the outer shield to navigate the rhythm in an open field. We let the passing friction carve the fabric flat and validated everything we marvel at. I strike the final chorus in the fading light, accepting the perfection of a steady night. The one beater striking on the heavy drum. The one beater striking on the heavy. The one beater striking on the heavy. The beater. The pad is flat, the beat is deep. We are fine. We are fine. A metal ring securing up a canvas shoe, a functional addition meant for me and you. We pushed the woven cotton through the narrow space, a calculated tension in a walking place. It held the heavy fabric in a solid bind, a geometric logic of a working mind. But pulling up the cotton takes a brutal wear, a microscopic damage in the open air. We yanked the woven fabric with the selfish might, refusing to maneuver in the fading light. The iron ring detaches from the canvas base, a violent separation in a quiet space. The whole expands and leaves a ragged looking tear, a miserable error we cannot repair. I try to pull the cotton but the margin yields a paralyzed defender on the open fields. The structure loses logic and the binding fails, a devastating limit on the sinking sails. The stripped eyelet tearing on the upper seam, a miserable ending to a walking dream. I try to pull the fabric but the anchor drops, a devastating failure where the motion stops. You cannot tie a future when the ring is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. The stripped eyelet tearing on the upper seam, a miserable ending to a walking dream. I try to pull the fabric but the anchor drops, a devastating failure where the motion stops. You cannot tie a future when the ring is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. We acted like the tension was an easy ride, a constant domination in the fading light. But pushing past the limit rips the vital spine, destroying all the symmetry of your design. The lace is hanging useless on the outer side, a miserable phantom with nowhere to hide. I try to force the cotton to a proper knot, but gravity refuses all the truth we got. Pull the cotton string, watch the fabric tear, fail to tie the knot. Breathe the silent air, the force destroyed the only bridge we ever made, a microscopic ending to a long charade. That forcing an excessive pull is dropping all the logic of a working fool. Love requires an anchor that is firm and strong to navigate the walking and correct the wrong. We rip the vital iron in a sudden rush and force the conversation to a heavy hush. I drop the ruined canvas on the bedroom floor, accepting that the walking will exist no more. The stripped eyelet tearing on the the upper scene. Watch a miserable ending to a walking dream. Lose the heart to pull the fabric but the anchor drops. A devastating failure where the motion stops. You cannot tie a future when the ring is dead. I leave the ruined canvas and the tears we shed. The ring is gone, the shoe is loose, I am done.
Attached upon a rubber band, a timing mechanism for a working hand. We wore it in the ocean with a heavy trust, ignoring all the symptoms of a growing dust. The glass was sealed securely with a tiny ring, a flawless operation of a fragile thing. Sitting in the weather takes a chemical toll, a devastating error on the rubber sole. The gasket cracks and opens to the outer sea, a microscopic failure crossing you and me. The water rushes inward to the moving gear, a terrible destruction of a passing year. The dial is filled entirely with the heavy blue, a miserable ending meant for me and you. The silver needle freezes on a quarter past, a physical reminder it could never last. The water floods the chamber and the motion dies, a devastating blindness under weary eyes. The flooded watch sinking in the ocean deep, a tragic limitation that the shadows keep. I try to read the numbers but the gear is dead, a physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot read a future with a drowning hand. I stare at the disaster in an empty land. The flooded watch sinking in the ocean deep, a tragic limitation that the shadows keep. I try to read the numbers but the gear is dead, a physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot read a future with a drowning hand. I stare at the disaster in an empty land. We acted like the barrier was forever strong, defying all the warnings of a dying song. But water is a master of the smallest crack, a devastating enemy that never looks back. The liquid sloshes trapped inside the heavy dome, a miserable ghost inside a broken home. I look into the crystal and I see the tide, a total inundation of a foolish pride. Tap the silver face, watch the liquid sway, fail to catch the time, throw the dream away. The barrier is broken by a careless weight, a terrible conclusion to a drowning fate. I realize that sinking with a broken seal is burying the truth of everything we feel. Love requires a barrier that is firm and tight to separate the Watch your tragic limitation that the shadows keep. Lose the try to read the numbers, but the gear is dead. A physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot read a future with a drowning hand. I'll leave the ruined metal and the tears we shed. The glass is wet.